who's watching us on YouTube, there it goes. It says this meeting is being live streamed, so you should see that. The benefit here is twofold. The benefit for all of you is now you can go back and watch the live stream anytime. You can watch the stream. I do. Pause my sound so we're not hearing an echo on there. So the benefit for all of you is that you'll be able to go back and watch this. And you can find it on my YouTube channel. You can watch any of the playbacks. So starting a little bit of last week, but really this week will be the first week. The 1 hour will be available in its entirety to you out on YouTube. The benefit to me is it helps me to build up my YouTube following. And I've been working on moving my numbers up and making progress here and there. And Sarah, my intern, and I, we've been working on a process to help to automate a lot of the scheduling so that I can continue to offer these on an ongoing basis, even as my business is continuing to grow and my time demands are getting a little bit tighter these days. So this is helping me. This is hopefully helping you. And we're going to use the same format once we get in, and we'll start with that now. So good morning and welcome and happy Friday. I'm going to welcome all of those that I do see on screen right now. If I see you on screen, I can also see your name. So I'm going to say good morning and welcome to Jerry Jones, Orlando, Christopher, Dean, Sonia, Joey. Nice to see you again, sir. Mindy, I'm going to make you a co-host if that is okay with you. Nancy Steinberg, I see. Therese, I see. John, Santina, nice to see you. A lovely flower in your hair. And we also see Victor up on screen. If you want the chance to join us up on screen to get some additional visibility for yourself, you need to register. And I'll remind everyone on YouTube of that link. You need to go to mellermarketing.com/Friday VIP, and that will redirect you to the registration page. What happens is once you register once, you will get the ability to add this to your calendar for every Friday for the remainder of 2022. And it's going to be the same Zoom link that you come into. So once you register once, you'll get the ability to save it to your calendar, but you could also just bookmark that manually yourself so you know the link to join every time. If in the event you are running late, you can't find the email to join, anything like that, don't email me after 10 o'clock. You can, but there's a good chance I'm not going to see it until 11:15 or 11:30, and then you're going to miss out on the whole call. What I want everyone to do instead is to go to the private unlisted LinkedIn group that I have created. I'm going to share that group up on screen right now for all of you. Need to figure out how to stop my loop here. And I'll just remind you, this is something that I've opened up exclusively to those that have attended these Friday VIP calls, as well as if you're on my email list as a job seeker. So reminder, if you're interested in coming out and joining us in that group, I'm going to put the link in chat inside Zoom right now. And this will be the place. If you can't find the link, come in here. And I just had Sarah do it this morning. She's posted the link for today's call. So don't email me. You can, but I'm not going to see your email. And I feel really bad when I see the emails at like 11:15, 11:30 after we get off the call. I don't want you to feel like I'm ignoring you, but once I'm here, I'm here. I haven't figured out how to clone myself yet. So once we are here, this is where you're going to find me. And I'm not going to be checking email. So go to the group. Anytime you have questions about any of the resources that we talk about within here, I want you to go to the group. Within the group, you're also going to find job postings from fellow VIP job seekers. You're going to find resources, tips, upcoming events, introductions from individuals, etc. So check out that group. On that note of introductions, the time is now 10:06, I should say. And you can go ahead and drop in your introduction into chat right now. And I'm going to put an example of that into the chat on Zoom, as well as on YouTube, wherever you're watching this from. And whenever you're watching this, whether you are watching this live or on playback, then you should put your introduction in here, because you never know when someone is going to see that comment and knows of a perfect opportunity for you. So I want to encourage you to drop your introduction into chat right now. It should be brief. This isn't your life history. What I'm looking for is your targeted job title, your targeted geographic area that you're looking for a position, and then include your LinkedIn URL. And please include that full address with the HTTPS as a part of it. That way, inside Zoom, it's going to be blue and clickable. And for that matter, on YouTube, it will be clickable and people can visit your profile. So I see a couple of introductions coming in here. Jerry Jones is looking for, oh, actually, you are a senior program manager. Let's see here. Oh, seeking a program project manager, director of operations. I heard something recently, Jerry, in the field of operations. So I'm going to put it into my mental noodle up here and think about, where did I hear about something? I don't know if it was a remote position or if it was a specific location, but I will think about that a little bit, and I'll come back to you once I remember what that organization was. So the part of the reason we do these introductions is so when we see someone on the call, we may have heard of an opportunity that week that matches what people are looking for. So do take a moment to please read through these introductions. And if you are aware of opportunities, message those folks and let's help each other out. That's kind of what this is all about. And on that note, I want to remind everyone, what this group is all about. I call this VIP office hours, VIP job seeker office hours. And I designed these intentionally for any of you who are unemployed, in career transition, in between successes, on hiatus. You can use your fancy word and title and phrase to describe where you're at right now. But I created this as a place that you can have a team, because I don't know about all of you. I remember when I worked in corporate, I really enjoyed working with a team. And then one day I was, tapped on the shoulder and told, you're not part of the team anymore. And I was like, well, what happened to the team? I like being a part of a team. And there were some people that reached out to you and they're like, hey, it's okay. I'll help you. What do you need? And other people kind of turned their back, and you kind of felt like, wow, yesterday I was helping you out on the big project and now you're not part of my team anymore, right? You're not even reaching out to me. So I created this as a place where we can all come together and we can support each other, because I don't want anyone to feel that they are alone in this journey. It can be very isolating when you are in career transition, when you're not going to the office and you don't have a team that you can, make coffee with and have a meeting with in the morning, etc. So I want you to feel that there is a place, that there are people that are here to support you, to lift you up when you're feeling down, to celebrate your successes, to help to answer your questions. And on that note, I want to encourage all of you, if you're in the Zoom session right now, I want you to go into chat. If you have a success story to share, I want you to put the word success in all caps, SUCCESS. I think I spelled that right. And then a success could be, I got a job. It could be I'm negotiating a job offer. It could be I got an interview. It could be somebody replied to my job application. I'm excited about that. Or I'm making connections with recruiters or people on LinkedIn. Like anything that you deem to be a success on the path of finding a job, we want to hear about it. And I'll ask you to unmute, tell your story so that we can learn from you. Okay. I also am looking for any questions you have related to your job search. It might be a question about using LinkedIn for your job search, or a specific area of your profile, maybe a new feature on LinkedIn. If you have a question, type in the word question in all caps, followed by the entire question. That way, if we don't have time to get to your questions by the end of the call, we'll have some topics for future meetings to come up. And then what else? If you have questions related to career strategy in general, we also have some other folks on the call here today that are going to be helping me out. And let me see, Mindy is on. I'm going to see if any of my other career experts are on today's call. I think that might be it. If there's anyone else who is a career expert, raise your hand. You can go to that reactions at the bottom and then click on raise hand like I just did. My little yellow hand is over here. Mindy, I'm going to have you introduce yourself if you wouldn't mind first. Tell us a little bit about you. What do you do? And then I'm going to ask you if you don't mind to help me out with some of the questions here today.
Hey, thanks, Brenda. How are you today?
Doing well. How are you today, Mindy?
I'm well, thank you. Excited to be here. So I like to call myself a career accelerator. I help professionals accelerate their careers, and whether that means doing job coaching or helping people with their resumes or helping people do interview prep, really focusing on what you need to do best to get to the job of your dreams. That's what I do. I host a call every single month, the first Wednesday of the month, for job seekers. You're all welcome to join in that call. I put the link into the chat, so you're welcome to click on that and just register through LinkedIn. Love to see you all there and love to answer any of your questions that you may have. Thanks, Brenda.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mindy, and appreciate you being on the call with us here today. I'm going to start using this feature within Zoom, which is the raise hand feature. So if you do have a question or a success story, still use the chat to type those in there. Type those in there. My mind is moving too fast right now. But I do want to encourage you to use the reactions into Zoom to raise your hand, because that helps us to identify if you do have a question, and it brings your panel up a little bit higher so we can see you. All right. So what you'll do is in the bottom menu bar where you see all the little options for Zoom, there should be one that says reactions. It's like a little happy smiley face. If you hover over that, you're going to see a list of emojis along the top. There's the clapping, the thumbs up, the crying, laughter crying, the shocked, the heart, etc. And then there's a plus X, a couple under things in the middle. And then at the bottom, it should say raise hand. So what happens is when you click on raise hand, it will keep it up until I call on you. And then you will have to manually click on lower hand to pull your hand down. So that will help me to identify individuals who have questions or who have success stories to share. And we're going to have a theme. We're going to start with a discussion around the theme today, and then we'll move into our questions and success stories. So I'll wait for you guys to continue to add yours in there. The theme, we didn't have this up as a preset theme, but Sarah and I were talking about this, and I said, I think some weeks I'm just going to pick a theme as we get the call started, and we're going to talk about it. Today, I want to talk about something we have talked about in the past, but it's been a bit since we've done so, and that is Zoom interviews. And let's give folks some tips on how to make a better presence for themselves during a Zoom interview. So I am actually going to, I'm going to start. I'm going to give a little bit of my advice. I'm going to turn it over to Mindy to offer your advice. And then I'm going to turn it over to Christopher. And this could be technical, audio, visual, sound, lighting, all that kind of stuff. It could be communication, things like make sure you're looking at the camera, make sure that you're speaking slow, those types of things. Or it could be other techniques or tips. So if you all have advice to share about Zoom interviewing, things that you've learned over the years, you can raise your hand. We'll call on you and we'll go first. I'll do first, and then I'll go to Mindy and then to Christopher. And then if anyone else raises their hand, I see Sonia's raised her hand. We'll go in that order. All right. So here's my advice for all of you. And this is a little bit based on, my experience of being a hiring manager. And I'm actually going through the process right now of recruiting a second intern. My intern, Sarah, has graduated. She's starting to look for a job. But my business is continuing to grow as well. So I'm getting in place a second intern, and I go through a multiple step process. I do a phone screen first, and then I do a Zoom interview next. And, my tip is, it might be like common sense, but sometimes people don't think about it. Before you jump on the call, make sure that you've got a copy of your resume in front of you or any materials you've sent to them. Maybe it's a resume, cover letter, have that in front of you. And also make sure that you have reviewed the job description. If not, have a printout of that in front of you. You shouldn't ask them any questions of things that you already know. And you also want to be prepared with, if they say, I see that you had XYZ on your resume, you don't want to think about, when did I put that on there? What job was that for? So having those items in front of you, I think can be very helpful. And I share this with you because sometimes when I interview with interns, they're not as polished. They haven't been around, and I'll say, tell me what about the job appealed to you? And they'll say, well, I can't remember. Can you tell me what the job is again? And I'm like, oh no. And I'm like, let's start over. Let's reschedule the interview, go back, look at the job description. Let's make sure you're actually interested in this. And I'm giving them some coaching feedback. But that's one piece of advice I have. And I'll give one more, and this is for the more advanced interviewer. As you are sitting in these interviews, you're tempted to look at the screen because that's where we can see people's faces. And it's human nature. I don't want to look at a little black box with a hole inside it, which is my camera. I'm tapping on it right now. I want to look at your faces. I want to see Mindy and Joey and Dean and Christopher and Santina. I want to see John. I want to look at your faces, but you're going to have better engagement with the interviewer or a committee if you're looking at the camera. So my advice is, as they are asking you a question, look at their face. And then as you're responding, look at the camera. Because then you can pick up on any verbal, nonverbal cues that they're giving you as they're describing the question. Maybe they're using their hands or they're pointing their finger up or whatever. But then when you answer, look at the camera. Because it's so weird looking at the camera and not the screen. I get that. It feels like you're in a conversation with somebody and you're looking over their shoulder and not at them. So that's my advice there. I'm going to turn it now over to Mindy to see what advice you have, Mindy, for people doing interviews via Zoom.
Yeah, thanks, Brenda. Your last tip, super hard to do. And so what I recommend is to put a little, like a happy face sticker up near that little camera. Oh, Santina, exactly. Just remember, and maybe add the word smile on there. That's exactly right. So that you remember to be enthusiastic and smile, because oftentimes the interviewers are interviewing multiple candidates and you may have very similar qualifications. Give them a reason to select you. And if that reason is your enthusiasm and your love for what they're doing, for what the company does or what the job entails, let that be it. You have to shine somehow. You have to outshine everyone else who's interviewing for the same job. 100%, you better know that job description inside and out. You better know what kind of company you're applying to, and don't get confused. If you're applying to multiple companies, then you got to organize yourself. Be prepared for that interview that's in front of you. Lighting, super important. Make sure that they can see your face. And if you are not sure, practice with a friend. Let them look at you and tell you what's going on. Oh, you know what? If you look this way, there's a huge glare in your glasses. If you look that way, it's better. Take the time to prepare for these Zoom interviews. The other thing is watch your background. Make sure there's not weird or unusual posters in the background that might be distracting to the interviewer. Super important, because you don't want them distracted. You want them focused on you. Absolutely. The last thing I'm going to tell you about is many times these Zoom interviews have multiple, like a panel interview. You may be one person speaking to 3 other interviewers. That's really challenging because you want to be able to focus on each person as they're speaking to you. So really be very mindful of whose question you're answering and make sure you direct it to them. Those are my key. I have others, but I don't want to take up all the time. So I'm going to pass to Christopher. And then if we have time, we'll come back. Thank you.
Thank you. And to echo what has been said, yes, camera and lighting and sound are all important. With being on camera, you want to make sure that you are roughly centered in that square. So not too much on one side or the other, and that you have just a few fingers of headspace above you. In addition to looking into the camera or directing your answers or your gaze into the camera, if you have notes, position them right below the camera so that it will be less obvious that you are looking away to read. Well, on this job, apparently I did a lot. Position your notes right below the camera and practice. Zoom allows you to record yourself. So do that. Practice by putting your notes below the camera. One suggestion I would have for that, the introduction that you have placed into chat would be a great thing that you could read into camera. Look at the camera, deliver it, then watch the video and see how you would change, if anything. How was the sound? What was the lighting? Is there anything distracting behind you? Practice before you need to so that you can do it flawlessly when required. And those are my tips.
And I went off camera and I muted myself. And I come back on camera again. So now I want to open it up to the audience. I see Sonia raise her hand because she does have a question. Before we move into your question, which isn't necessarily Zoom related, I want to see if the audience, if anyone else in our VIP group has any additional advice or tips about Zoom interviewing or video interviewing. I see Jerry Jones raised his hand. Jerry, do you have a piece of advice about interviewing?
Reboot the router before the meeting.
So tell us, what does that mean and what does that do?
Just in case your network is slow or something like that, it'll speed up your Wi-Fi or even the LAN connection and hopefully prevent interruptions with you have a slow network or they don't hear you or you lock up, things of that nature.
So I have to admit, I'm on a laptop and I'm Wi-Fi. Jerry, you got a tech background? I'm not sure if you know the answer to this or not. It's probably better to be hardwired in than on a Wi-Fi connection though, right?
It is.
Yeah. So I would not make a good interviewee. That's why I am enthusiastically unemployable. So thank you, Jerry, for that advice.
And I have more if you want.
Sure. Go right ahead.
Watch your clothing. That stripes tend to create the Moliere effect, I think it's called, where the lines start moving. Turn off your phones so that they don't go off in the background and be on time.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jerry. We appreciate that advice. I see a couple more hands are raised. I'm going to call on Santina and then John after Santina. So Santina, what advice do you have for us? I think you're muted, Santina. Did we lose her?
Oh, thank you.
There you are.
Forgive me. I'm a little more scatterbrained than usual. I was coming off of COVID, so that's always fun. So my advice is similar to what Christopher had in the chat, is that if you have your documents, put them near where you're looking. Also, you can put your chat. And I interact with the chat a lot, so I tend to move my chat box underneath my camera. Also, if you are meeting new people that I think it was Mindy that had said, if you are meeting with a panel, you're going to have to address each individual person. But if you have not known these people prior, if you have not had email correspondence with them, ask them to put their contact information in the chat, because then you can save the chat and then you have their information to send those wonderful thank you letters later. That's all I got.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Santina. Appreciate that. John Lyman, you are on I would say on deck, but you're on stage, so to speak. What advice do you have for us?
Hi, good morning, everyone. The thing that I keep coming back to when I'm doing Zoom interviews is, all the logistics and the technology stuff's very, very important. But I think also as important is the mental state that you need to be in as you walk into the Zoom meeting. You are in effect talking to an inanimate object, although the faces on screen move. If you're okay with talking to inanimate objects, I think you will do well, but you need to get to that point where you're comfortable interacting, being natural, so you're not artificial. And some of the things that we can learn from is actually your broadcast news in the evening. Look how they present themselves, how they look into the camera, their mannerisms, their pacing, their cadence, and then you account for that. And just look at it as a very nice conversation and visit. It's not an interrogation. And you are going to ask them questions as well as them asking you. So go in, be prepared, do your hero pose before you go in, and then you do just fine.
Now, I'm going to have to ask you, John, what's the hero pose? You got to do a demonstration for us and tell us a little bit more about that.
The hero pose involves you taking a pose of your favorite superhero. Superman, of course, is very easy to emulate. You do one of these, thrust your chest out, look up, imagine yourself flying through the air. Remember, you are the hero in this story. You're going to impress the folks you're going to visit with. You're going to convince them that you are the one that will solve their problems and that they would be very silly not to hire you.
That's awesome. I love the demonstration. So I remember, I think some people are saying Amy Cuddy. I'm going to stand up and do it too. So it's putting your hands on your waist. And I think it's almost like feet are slightly broader than shoulders is kind of the stance we're looking for. And it just puts your mind, like your mind believes what you tell it. So in part of the philosophy I share, and we do this job seeker mantra, we might do it on today's call, but if you say to yourself, I'm never going to get a job, I'm never going to find a job, I'm always going to be out of work, your mind starts to believe it and you start to miss out on opportunities. When you say to yourself, I will find a job, your mind starts to figure out ways to make it happen. I think the hero stance is the same way. When you come in telling your mind that you are confident about yourself, you're feeling like that, that positive orientation coming into the call, that's going to come across when you are interviewing. So I love that piece of advice. And I know we've heard it before, John, but I think it's worth hearing it again, because I think there's actually somebody on this call who said they needed to leave for an interview in the middle of today's call. So this might be helping that person. So thank you, John, for sharing that.
You're welcome.
All right. Anyone else have advice for Zoom interviews before we move on? Sonia, do you want to, you have advice? Go right ahead. Unmute yourself.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I just, I, from a tech perspective, feel that it's so important to have a backup in case your internet fails. So what I would suggest is know how to use your smartphone to create a Wi-Fi hotspot, so that if for some reason your internet fails or your connection is bad or slow, sometimes you can get a better connection using your phone as a Wi-Fi hotspot. Wait, I'm looking at the camera. And then you can impress your interviewers with your tech skills and problem solving skills, and not have to miss a really important meeting. So that was my thought on that, because it's happened to me. And so now I make sure that my phone is always juiced up. I have backup batteries. There, those little backup batteries that are probably about the size of your phone. I make sure those are juiced up, so that my tech will unlikely be the reason why we can't continue with the interview. So that's my thought.
And that's a great tip. And adding on to that, practice that before you need to, so that you are not doing this in a panic. So try using your phone as a Wi-Fi hotspot just on a whim. Try switching your audio. If you have a different mic, this has happened to more than a few people I know. The wired headset has suddenly gone wonky. The earbuds have suddenly lost their charge. You can make an adjustment to those by switching from one audio or headset source to another. And you can find those settings in, actually, it should be about right there under the mute on the menu bar at the bottom. So if you click on that up caret, you will see a whole host of things, your audio settings, and you can see what Zoom thinks you are using as your microphone and what you're using as your speakers. So if you need to make a change, now you know exactly where to go. So if you're using anything that you're using that is rechargeable, make sure it is fully charged before you get on the interview.
Excellent advice, Christopher. Thank you so much. And on that note, I believe, Christopher, isn't there a way that you could have your own free Zoom account? You can open up Zoom and you can test out things before the interview as well, can't you?
Absolutely. Zoom allows you an account with 40-minute meetings. So you can have as many meetings as you want in a day. You can have as many meetings as you want, but you're limited to 40 minutes. You could record it, play it back, practice, learn from what you've done and practice. You get the impression that practice is important? Mm-hmm. It is. Practice helps you be confident so that when you do that hero's pose, you already know, I've got this.
Good advice. Thank you. And one final thing I was just thinking about, I think it was John who was talking about, think about the TV show broadcasters. And it made me think about background. Think about what's in your background. If you have pets, lock up the pets before you get started with the call. Obviously, a little bit more comfortable, casual calls, it's okay to have your cat running across your keyboard or the dog barking in the background. But in an interview session, you want to make sure they're locked up. But also, there's a way that you can blur your Zoom background if you don't want them to see, like as is in John's view, if you don't want them to see your kitchen or backyard or whatever. Now, mine, I've set up my bookshelves intentionally. I want you to see that I have a lot of books and my books and things like that on there. But you can also move your computer around the house if you want to have something else staged for that interview background. So think about when newscasters, when they're on the scene, they're always standing in front of the building so you can see the building behind them. Even if it's something that the news story didn't involve that physical location, they will still go in front of, if it's a news story about a Starbucks, they'll go in front of a Starbucks, wherever it is, to show Starbucks in the background. So think about intentionally placing things in the background. Ooh, this is brilliant. Think about intentionally placing things in the background that are relevant to the company that you're hiring for. So let's say I was interviewing for Starbucks. I might put a Starbucks coffee cup on my bookshelf behind me. Huh? You see that? So think about staging things and don't call attention to them. Let them see them right there. So I think we're going to move on now to going into some success stories and Q&A. I did see that we had one question that came in from Sonia, and I'll remind the group, if you do have a question that you'd like our group to answer for you, please raise your hand, but also type it in on the chat in case we don't get to you today. And then in terms of success stories, put the word success in chat, but then please also raise your hand so that we can call on you. So Sonia, I'm going to pull you back up again because I know that you had a question. I'm going to scroll back up to the question. While I'm doing that, can you remind me what your question was?
Of course. I applied for a job that really, really, really grabbed me, and I really, really want it. At least I think I do. You know, sometimes the jobs you think you want aren't necessarily the ones. But I applied.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I received a notification. It was a no reply email saying, oh, we've been slammed with applications. Would you give us a couple of weeks to go through them, 1 to 2 weeks, and we will get back to you. So my question is, and I've seen some of this advice before, and before I ask it, I want to say thank you to you, Brenda, and to everyone here for your input. It's highly, highly valuable, and I do feel like I found my people. So,
well, we're glad to hear
now
that.
that I've done that sucking up, I will ask my question.
Hey, we live on people. I don't want to say sucking up. We live on compliments, right? We should be happy to hear such wonderful feedback, because it's why we do what we do. We do this because we're a community and we support each other and we help each other. So Sonia, if I could repeat back the question I heard from you, it's, I've applied for a job. I got the form email, and I guess it was good that you got the form email because you know your submission went through, but they said, we've got a lot of responses. Give us a couple weeks before you hear anything back. And now you're wondering, should I reach out to employees at LinkedIn to let them know that I'm interested in the job? Absolutely. What I would recommend that you do is look up the company on LinkedIn. If they have a company page, follow it first. Okay. And then before you even engage with a couple of employees, find a recent post on the company page and add a thoughtful comment to it. Comment on what they have talked about in that post, because it shows that not only are you, you're doing the research, but you're helping to support their page, their impressions, their page reach and everything like that. So adding a thoughtful comment, 5 or more words on there. You may be one of very few people that do, because to be honest, a lot of company pages don't get a lot of comments. So I can guarantee you that, well, probably 99% guarantee that someone at the organization is going to see your comments. Some companies don't look at their pages at all. They have an outsourced agency doing it and they don't touch it. But most companies have somebody who's managing and pushing the postings out, and they're looking to see if there's any comments coming in. So they're going to see your comment, especially if it's a thoughtful comment. And if you can bring in something that's related to your role, from a marketing perspective, I really appreciate, X, Y, and Z technique that you illustrated in this video, great use of captioning or whatever. So if you can add a thoughtful comment, that would be great. So follow the company first, go to their page and add a thoughtful comment, then look up employees. And by the way, while you're on the company page, you can click on the number of employees and it'll take you to a listing of all of their employees. And then at that point, if you want, you can apply filters to try to find people that work within the department that the job is in. So if I wanted a job in the marketing department, I'm going to look up everybody who works in marketing, graphic design, copywriting, communications, etc., public relations, and try to connect with as many of those people as I can. My advice for you, Sonia, and for others as well, is when you invite those people to connect, do not mention the job posting in your invitation to connect. You're going to follow my formula that I recommend, which is this: hi, first name, followed by, if you've met them, you would remind them where you met. So let's say you did meet a person at a chamber networking event or at an American Marketing Association event or through Inforum or some other, maybe on the VIP call, whatever. Like if you met them in the past, mention that. Then let's connect on LinkedIn and then sign off with your name. If you haven't met them, which is the more likely possibility, I want you to look at their profile first. Look through their profile, find 1 or 2 items that you have in common or something interesting that you can comment on in the invitation. And that might read something like this: hi, Cynthia. We haven't met yet, but I see that we both work in the project management industry and we share one common connection, Christine Carnegie, and I might name drop someone who is a common connection. Let's connect on LinkedIn, Brenda Meller. Okay. Now, as you start to do this and employees start to accept your invitations, let's say Bob Smith was one of those employees. Now, when I connect with Ethan Dunn and he's a coworker, I might say, hi, Ethan, we haven't met yet, but we are both located in Metro Detroit and we share several common connections, including John Smith. Right now I start to name drop some of the coworkers and then he's like, John, how do you know Sonia? And John might say, oh, she connected with me. And then after they accept your invitation, you're going to move into step 2, which is thanking them for accepting the invitation. And now you let them know why you connected. Thanks, John, for accepting my invitation. I actually just noticed that you're hiring for a project manager at XYZ company, and I'm very interested. I think it's a perfect fit for me. Wondering if you might have any insights into the hiring process. And that's it. You give them kind of a soft, ask. You're letting them know, but you're not saying, here's my resume, give it to the hiring manager. You're kind of like opening the door, like, hey, do you know anything about this role? And John might say, that's in the next department over. I know they're getting a lot of resumes. I'd be happy. And they might even offer, I'd be happy to, send your resume over to them. Or he might say, what questions do you have for me? At that point, I might say, would you be open to jumping on a quick call sometime? Maybe a 5 to 10 minute call where I could ask you a few questions. Or you might say, well, I got this email back. It says I'm going to get a response in 1 to 2 weeks. Do you know who the hiring manager is where I could send a follow-up email? Because I know they're getting a lot of applicants and I think I'm a perfect fit and I'd like to be able to help them out. So you got to kind of tailor your response at that point based on what the person says. That's my advice. I want to see if Mindy, if you have anything to offer on there, or if anyone else has anything to offer in there as well. So Mindy, I'll call on you next.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, Sonia, one of the things that you can do if you're going through LinkedIn and you can find the recruiter, many times the recruiter's name and face is right there in the job posting. You can start messaging directly to that recruiter. And you could even do a video message, or an audio message to stand out a little bit from the crowd. Any of those things are good ways to get right in directly into the company. And, obviously everything that Brenda said as well, seeing who else you might know, even second and third connections are good ways to figure out, oh, we both know John Smith and, we have a common interest in whatever role you're looking for. So those are things that you can look at. LinkedIn has, on their job postings, has tons of information. They'll tell you what skills they're looking for. They'll tell you who your competition is, all those things. So it's, there's a lot of information on LinkedIn to find out about those jobs that you may be looking for. So research, that's my comment here.
Awesome
Another
advice, Mindy.
advantage
Thank
based
you.
on what Brenda was talking about is if you can get somebody to hand your resume into somebody personally, you effectively bypass the ATS, the track system. Because if your resume doesn't have one of the key words that's in the tracking system, then your resume doesn't get through the gate. If you've met somebody or have connected with somebody and they hand walk your resume into their hiring manager's desk, you've bypassed the ATS, and so you've made it through that hurdle, which is huge.
That's a really good point. And add on to that, Sonia, even though you got the form email that says the resume came through, you don't know where you are in the list. It could be 500 resumes they received and you were resume number 428. And by the time they get to resume number 428, you could, I don't want to say you could be screened out, but you might not be into consideration because they've already gotten their top 10 list of candidates from there. So I think definitely making that personal human connection, or at least attempting. You may not be able to make that connection, but let's try. Let's not just wait and put our fate into the hands of an automated system that, to be frank, is often quite broken and doesn't benefit us as job seekers, as candidates. It's supposed to help the organizations, but I feel like some organizations, we've heard this, all the hurdles of the ATS that might be blocking you to come through. So thank you for sharing that, Joey. And I want to see, does anyone else from the group have advice for Sonia about connecting with employees of an organization where you have applied and gotten that form email back that says we got it, but we're busy. So give us a couple weeks to respond. If you do, please raise your hand and we'll call on you and we'll bring you up to the stage on here. Santina, I see your hand is raised. What advice do you have?
So in continuing with that vein of getting lost in the sauce a little bit, definitely keep engaging and keep letting them know that you are interested, because if it's an extended period of time that they're getting to that mountain of resumes, the other 400 people from the 500 might have already moved on. They might have found a job. They might have decided to switch industries. They might have, life happens. And so by you continuing to engage and reminding them, hey, I'm still interested. I really like what you've got going on here. It kind of helps solidify in their brain, like, oh, okay, all right, then we want her. Like she's worth following. Because once resumes get stale, the recruiters and hiring managers stop looking at them. So in those weeks of looking through 500 resumes, they've already gotten stale. So your direct engagement and interest and enthusiasm will definitely be worth its weight and take you places.
Muted. Let me try to unmute there. Sonia, any final comments? Was that helpful for you?
That was way more than I expected to.
All right, we'll take some
receive.
back then.
So thank you. I had already decided in my head not to do it because I didn't want to seem like a creepy stalker. So, but I can do it without being creepy or being a stalker. And I love your suggestions. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it.
You should do it. I mean, I think you want to seem like you are a highly engaged candidate and your goal is to break yourself apart from the competition. But also, on that note of you don't want to seem desperate, for it. When you're having conversations, let the person know this is, I applied for a position at the company. I'm looking at a few others, but this one really is top interest for me. So kind of let them know I'm looking around, but this one seems like it might be a perfect fit. So you can work that angle into the conversation if that helps out too. So
definitely. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for asking. I'm so glad that you asked the question.
Me
and
too.
I'm glad that we convinced you otherwise. I do see there was a question that came in from, who was it from? John, I think it was from you, but I'm having a hard time finding it. You had a question. Is it a public question, something you want to ask us here?
It is. The idea of connecting, as you form connections, potentially this could be a connection with your future boss or your coworker.
Oh, that's right. Okay. So in this hypothetical scenario, you have accepted a job and you're wondering, should you connect with people before you start?
Before, during, or even after.
Okay.
Thoughts on, is that a good thing, bad thing? Are you taking a chance now that they are now connected to you? They will now see that you're working there and also on LinkedIn every 3 hours or so posting.
Okay. So let's, a couple questions were kind of wrapped all together in there. So right now you're in this scenario, I'm going to assume the person is in career transition. They have a lot of free time and their job is finding a job. So they're spending a lot of time on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
They're commenting, they're engaging, they're doing a lot of activities, they're connecting with people, etc. So let's say in this scenario, connecting with your future boss or future coworkers, and they see that you are posting and potentially commenting every few hours. I mean, I'll be honest with you, John, most people are not going to see that. They're not going to click on your activity feed and look at the timestamps. They're going to be so busy doing their jobs. They're not going to do that.
Okay.
If they happen to do, and they go, oh, wow, John's really active on LinkedIn. Well, of course he is. His job is looking for a job right now. His job is keeping visible, and LinkedIn's a great place to be visible, not just spending hours and hours on hot jobs applying, but he's staying active on the platform. I think that would be a positive thing. Let's say now after you've landed a job, now you want to be more strategic about how you're spending your time on LinkedIn. And I think you want to understand the environment of the workplace that you're at. If you are in an organization and your role is related to marketing or business development, there's probably more leniency for you being on LinkedIn. I don't want to say all the time throughout the day, but at different time segments throughout the day. If you work in a role like customer service or operations or accounting or finance, like in a back end role that you're not supposed to be doing prospecting and networking and things like that, that might be seen as a negative, that if they see you interacting on posts from throughout the day. So if it were me starting at the organization, I would say, do we have a social media policy here? You know, it's probably would be part of the employee handbook, and it would say something to the effect of, you're representing the company, you know, even though it's your point of view, it could be perceived as the company's point of view. So being careful about what you're saying. They may have rules that say you cannot go onto Facebook or Twitter or Instagram during working hours, or they might say, do not access social media during working hours. If I worked in marketing or sales, I would probably say to HR and my boss, but I need to be on LinkedIn for prospecting. So is there an exclusion for my department to make sure? And then what are the expectations? I usually spend, you know, in the beginning part of my day, I'll spend about a half hour in the morning. I might spend a little bit of time before or after lunch, another half hour. And then at the end of the day, I might spend another 30 minutes. Is that okay? Like kind of clearing the air. And if they're already open to it, you don't need to ask. But if you're not sure, I would probably say, this is what I plan to do. So you're disclosing to your boss, to HR, what you're doing, and then being active. And then as far as connecting with coworkers, depending again on what is the environment and the expectation of you, is it okay for you to be on LinkedIn during working hours or not? If it's pretty clear that you're not supposed to be on social media at all, and they lump LinkedIn with that, I would still personally connect with my coworkers, the ones that I feel like I'm going to have a good working relationship with, the ones that if I ever leave the company in the future, I want to stay connected with. I would probably connect with them, but in off hours or evenings and weekends is probably what I would do. I would probably still keep active with posting, but I would do that on my time, evenings and weekends, or early morning hours before I go into work, but not reply back to comments until after I get home from work or on the weekend. So I'm going to respect the boundaries that are out there, because if I'm earning a paycheck, I don't want to violate any of those terms or get me in a bad space. But you are in control of your career. You are in control of where you are going before and after this organization. And I don't think you want to slam any of those doors shut on yourself and shut down all of your LinkedIn activities. So that's my advice. I want to see if anyone else has any advice to share with John. I'll start with Mindy. Do you have any advice to share? And then I see Therese has her hand raised after that.
Listen, I believe in connecting with people. I believe that LinkedIn is your digital handshake to the world. And other than the fact that you shouldn't be doing things on company time that are not company related, I don't see any reason. I don't see the downside in connecting. If someone abuses their privileges by saying things, you can always block them and not be connected. But I just don't see the downside in connecting with people that you may want to talk to in the future. I don't get that. So I wouldn't be concerned about that. You know, it's not Facebook. Shouldn't be posting things that you might be embarrassed about. You're not posting your party images, right, from the weekend, or, you know, drinking buddies or ammunition that you have in your basement. So it's LinkedIn. It's a professional network. We should be always posting professional and uplifting information. So I wouldn't be concerned about it, except for using company time to do it if that's not part of your job. I see some other hands raised. Brenda, I don't know if you're seeing them.
Yeah, Therese, I see your hand. Is your hand raised because you have some advice to offer? Go ahead.
I have a question, and I would ask, well, for what we're talking about now, I would ask to see what the company policy is and just follow it, and then connect on my off hours if I received a job via at home or a flex job. I wouldn't do it, because then they might hold that against you for some reason, or somebody might. But my question is, and I'm still batting over this, I don't know, should we get LinkedIn Premium for us? I'm not on a plan before I start paying monthly for a LinkedIn. And the reason I'm asking is because not very many people I want to really connect with use LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So
Therese, if it's okay, I'm going to give, there's one more comment from Joan as
no
relates
problem.
to this question, and then we'll move on to your question next, if that's okay. Joan, thank you for commenting. I see you inside chat here saying the hand raise may not have worked, but Joan, do you have some advice for John or something to add to that?
Yeah, I was just going to say real quick, and you touched on a lot of it. What I do, because I noticed, even though I'm working, the job I'm in is not where I want to go. And thanks for all the support that I got when I posted 2 months ago. what I do, I'm noticing depending on what you're posting, people tend to look at posts at a certain time. I try to schedule mine. Yes, I'll schedule it at night to hit in the morning, because certain ones like Motivational Monday, I got to get that out if I'm doing it early, because folks ain't going to be interested in the afternoon or the evening. So I would say you can use that if you want to schedule your own post. And the other thing about recruiters, I'm trying to LinkedIn for the premium. They do look, because I noticed on jobs that I'm applying for, because I'm still trying to pivot into HR, less than 24 hours later, they're looking at my profile. So I still stay active professionally. That's what I wanted to say. They are looking.
Thank you, Joan. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
that. All right, John, was that helpful? Did we answer your question for you?
It was. The idea of asking explicitly for the online social media policy, that's gold right there.
Well, there you have it. Hey, and when you start your new job, I'm going to give a little plug to everyone in the group here. Make sure that your company has a social media policy. If they need help with LinkedIn, with company page management or coaching or training their employees, tell them Brenda Meller would love to have a conversation. Did you like that little segue there, John? There we go. All right. So let's pull Therese back up on screen and let's talk about premium. Christopher and I are both trying to navigate people on the screen. I'm going to let Christopher pull Therese back up on screen here. But Therese had a question about, does it make sense to upgrade to LinkedIn Premium? First I want to start with, I do not work for LinkedIn, and I do not make money on whether or not you upgrade to LinkedIn Premium, whether it's Job Seeker Premium, Business Premium, Sales Navigator, anything like that. Having said that, I don't like seeing people waste money. So Job Seeker Premium, I believe it's $29.99, and correct me in chat if I'm wrong on that. Go into chat and tell me if you know what the monthly amount. I think it's $29.99 for Job Seeker Premium. For Business Premium, you get I think you get some additional features for search and things like that. It's $59.99 per month.
That's too much.
And now that's a monthly investment. Now LinkedIn will give you a free month. And you do have to put a credit card on file, and then you have to cancel by day 30 in order for not getting billed for the next month. So, the Job Seeker Premium may be worth it. I think you can still see everyone who's looked at your profile if you use that. But I always ask people, what are you going to do with that information? So I paid $29.99. I can see everybody who's looked at my profile. Let's say I applied for a job at your company, Therese, and I see that you looked at my profile. If we're not connected yet, that might help me to see that you looked at it and then invite you to connect. And I'm not going to say, I saw that you looked at my profile. I'm going to use the same invitation technique I talked about earlier. I'm going to look at your profile, find one or two items that we have in common or something interesting from your profile that I can comment on. And and then at that point I might say, we haven't met yet, but I see we're both located in Metro Detroit and we share several common connections, including Christopher Johnson. Then you accept, and then they probably know that I saw that they looked at the profile. I'm now thinking of that scene from Friends where Phoebe says, they don't know that we know that they know, Now they probably are aware that you saw that they looked at your profile, but they probably appreciate the fact that you didn't call them out on it. Hey, I saw that you looked at my profile, right? They appreciate that you held back a little bit on that. And then the second step, after they accept the invitation, if they do accept it, I noticed you work for ABC Company. I have recently applied for the project manager position. Very interested in this role. Was wondering if you might have any insights into the hiring process. So you play it cool at this point, even if you think that's the hiring manager or if that's the recruiter or whatever, you still just kind of say, I'm wondering if you have any insights on the process, because I'm very interested. And then follow their lead from there. If they say, actually, I'm the recruiter, I found your profile, I'm interested in talking with you, or they might say, they might not say anything at that point. And then I going back to the company page, following it, commenting on a recent post. In addition, I would probably go to that person's profile, find something that they have posted recently and add a thoughtful comment there. And then I would back away. That's it. I'm not going to do any more outreach to them. So in that case, that might get you noticed, visibility, a conversation, an interview. And I would say that would be a good $29.99 investment. Or if you do Business Premium, it might be a good $59.99 investment. And it might be all worth it because now I'm back to work and I have a salary that's paid for it. On the whole, though, Therese, I see a lot of people signing up for premium. They don't know what they're getting out of it. They kind of feel like it's a better version of LinkedIn. It's not. It just gives you access to some additional features. I want to see if anyone else in the group has any advice for Therese on using premium. Mindy, do you have any thoughts on that? Nothing to add? I see you shaking no.
I'm asked the question constantly. I don't see the value unless you're really going to be looking at that who's looked at me section. If you're not looking at it and you're ignoring it, then it's kind of a waste to me. I think there's a lot of other ways to spend that $60 a month. But definitely use the 30-day, the free trial for sure. And sometimes you can use it through a 30-day trial and then you say no, and then they offer it again like 6 months later. So, you know, if you find value in seeing who's looking at you, then get it. If you don't, I just don't see the value.
All right. Thank you, Mindy. All right. I don't see any other hands
Thank
raised.
you so much, everyone.
Is that helpful for you,
Appreciate it.
Therese?
Yes, it was. I just want to add that the people that I've tried to connect with via LinkedIn don't connect at LinkedIn. I think it depends on your industry too, if they really enjoy looking at LinkedIn profiles. Some industries don't. And that surprised me, but that's the way it is. So I was just wondering about that. I think I'd have to find another strategy. I live in the Washington, D.C. area. They like to meet for coffee in DC. I think that, or have go on their own website and stuff. So I'll have to really think about it before I like flex jobs. And that's a job site if you want to work from home, because not only does it have jobs, but like it's a full thing where you do interviews. You can get help from a counselor. So I've spent, and it's for 3 months for like $29. So it's not as expensive.
And I think there's even a version of, I think if you go to your local library, I never remember Megan Voges would talk about this. You can get access to LinkedIn Premium through your local library. I don't know how that process works. Christopher, do you know? I just saw your head nodding.
Thank you.
Were you nodding in agreement or?
Nodding in agreement. Local libraries offer a wealth of resources that can bypass those individual subscription fees.
Okay.
So check with your library, go up to the help desk, Therese, and say, hey, I heard that libraries can offer a free LinkedIn Premium, and maybe even better, go on Megan Voges's profile on LinkedIn. If you're not yet connected with her, ask her how we do that. What do we need to tell our librarian? I'm going to put Megan's URL into chat right now. And Megan is a graduate, an alumni, if you will, of the VIP job seeker community. I just put her into chat. So invite her to connect, mention that I sent you. And if you're interested in getting that premium, ask her for her help there.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Wonderful. Well, I think we're going to start to wrap up here, but Christopher, I didn't give you the chance in the beginning of the call to introduce yourself. So could you please remind folks what it is that you do and if there are referrals or opportunities that you're looking for? Let us know about that.
Well, thank you very much. I am a virtual event producer. I help organizations and event planners produce virtual events. Think conferences, meetings, regional events of that nature. Ideal clients for me would be someone that is doing one of those things and needs some help with the tech, needs someone to guide them through the process to make sure their event is engaging and has the things that they require out of it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Christopher. All right. I think that is all we have time for today, guys, because I've got to actually start to wrap. I've got a few things I need to do, and then I need to get going with the family for today. So I'm going to pull us back up to gallery view. I want to thank everyone so much for joining us today. And I'm going to name off the names I see up on screen. I see Jerry. Mindy, thank you so much for helping us with Q&A. Joey, it's always a delight to see you. Santina, love seeing you as well. Vic, love your pie background. Christopher, thank you for your help. Scott, it was great to see you. Therese, John, Sonia, and Dean. And I want to wish everybody a wonderful weekend. Remind you, we are every Friday here from 10 to 11 a.m. If you want to join us on Zoom, you can be a part of the conversation. Or if you want to go into the viewing audience, you can watch it on YouTube. And keep in mind that the YouTube video is public, so you can go out there and watch it again later. Before we leave, if you would like to download the chat, I'll remind you of the instructions on doing that right now. At the bottom of chat where it says to everyone, you'll click off to the right-hand side. There's 3 little dots. Click on those 3 little dots and you should see an option that says save chat. That will save a copy of the chat transcript to your local downloads folder. And then you can go back later and open that up. It'll be like in a text document, but that way all the links and information that we shared is in there and it'll be on your local machine. Okay. So with that said, guys, I want to thank you all so much for joining us here today. I'm going to stop the YouTube real quick and then I will stop the Zoom afterwards. Let's see here. So thank you for those